Well, you tested it to look at it, and we haven't seen anything since the last time. Since 2004, I have not played Jak.
Like, I've watched my nephews play it.
The Jak collection that I have.
Oh, it does look good.
You can't skip one.
This looks about the same.
No. It looks a lot better.
Jak's feel is still great, though. He moves really well.
Oh, you remember how to play. It's immediate. He knows all the commands still.
But the camera.
All the memories come back.
Yeah, so when we sat down and brainstormed after the close of Crash Team Racing and we're looking at the PlayStation 2 hardware, we're like, okay, this world has to be seamless. We don't want any loads. It's got to feel immersive, and we don't want there to ever be a break from the action or a chance for you to say, oh, now's the time for me to put down the controller, I finished that level, you know, and you're just always in the world, it's always on. There's a day and night cycle, so it's always changing and evolving, and you really feel like you're part of that world. So those were, from the very beginning, before we even knew who Jak was, who Daxter was, you know, what the world was going to be like, that was the feeling that we wanted to invoke.
Oh, we had everyone draw, too. We had every single artist in the company draw, like, their vision. Like, on paper, like, or on computer, they were allowed to do anything. Draw their vision of, like, the world we might make.
I got to see what they were working on. The characters hadn't even been named yet, you know, it just had, like, you know, pictures of Jak said hero and picture of Daxter said sidekick. And then they actually showed me the game in progress, and I was completely blown away. Not only by the graphics, which looked pretty much better than anything I'd seen on PS2, but the animation of the main characters like Jak and Daxter. John Kim did it all himself, and oh my God, it blew my mind.
Oh yeah, this little space, and Jak's cool little water waddle. I love, look at Daxter shivering. That was a John Kim touch.
Daxter was, I guess, one of the things that I drew as far as inspiration was Abu, Aladdin Abu. He was squirrely. He was literally just all over Jak. In Aladdin, is all over the main character, and yeah, and he would do the same thing in the game. You know, if he does a spin kick, he would spin around him and he'll string back and come back like a rubber band. And so yeah, all that ideas, I think, heavily for me as an animator came from Aladdin.
But again, that was a first. Most characters, and still there are games where the characters go in the water and they just walk through the water. Jak had a reaction for everything.
Yeah, his animation was pretty unparalleled.
And that was something that was very important to us, was that passion for animation and very responsive controls. We all came from the arcade era, and those had a great feel to them, and we wanted to replicate that. The little micro bits of adjustment to get the timing right, to get the motion to work, to get the parabola, the arc of that, when you do your second jump, when you ledge grab, when does he come out of it. And you also build on shoulders of giants. You know, we looked a lot at the best in class at the time, And Mario was doing some, and continues to do some fantastic stuff.
One of the things when I first saw Jak and Daxter, one of the things that really jumped out at me was finally we're doing, Mario 64. Because when we were making Crash Bandicoot and Mario 64 came out, we were just like, oh, wow. We were absolutely floored by what we were seeing on the screen. And so when I first saw Jak and Daxter, it was like, okay, now we can do that kind of a game.
That this was really Mario 64, but given reason and given continuity. So it wasn't just a bunch of toys, it was, here's Jak, and why do you have to do this?
And there's a story.
Well,
Mario had no story.
Right, a bird stole it, as opposed to just go do it.
Yeah, so when Jak and Daxter came out, I think there was a lot of excitement because it was sort of PlayStation owners' chance to play a game that is more traditionally associated with like a Nintendo release.
It was pretty nerve-wracking because it was really the first thing that I had worked on where I really, truly, genuinely cared about the reviews that it was going to get. And the response overall for the first Jak game was generally really, really positive. It was just fun to be able to, play this game with some of my friends or some little cousins. So, hey, look, I did this part. We all thought that we had made something really fun. And, thankfully, the sales demonstrated that enough people agreed with us.
For us, it's always very refreshing to get the outsider's perspective and to say, wow, this is actually something that works really well. We didn't know we were making such a great title. We were just doing our best to create a kick-ass title.
Oh yes, the dogs.
Man, this brings back memories.
Technically, this was a much, much more challenging project, and so just getting it to run at all was almost a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, we were really excited about the opportunity to bring Jak and Daxter to the PlayStation 3 and be able to present it in high definition and up-res the graphics and add the trophies and sort of really give it that PS3 experience. But it was going to be a very daunting challenge.
Naughty Dog will probably tell you, they told us at the beginning that this is an impossible project. And it wasn't long before we agreed with them.
Jak had one of the craziest overall technical schemes ever.
They did a lot of tricks, a lot of expected ones and a lot of unexpected ones. They wanted to get the most out of the PS2. Well, actually I would argue they did get the most out of the PS2.
We had completely custom tools and completely custom way of using all the hardware. Made stuff back and forth between all the different processors and did weird stuff on the old PlayStation 1 processor you weren't supposed to, and it was just a very complicated design.
So the process of handing it off to another developer, Mass Media, who did a fantastic job of piecing together that spaghetti.
And looking under the hood, yes, it was a surprise to see that much code.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let me just say that to them right now.
Lots of late night debugging sessions and mysteries that took a few days to solve.
Yeah, we didn't think when we were making the game of the people that would come through and improve the game.
I was there sitting next to the programmer helping him figure out what kind of clever algorithm that Naughty Dog came up with. Of course, it's at those points you realize how much work you're going to be in for, and you've got to try and figure out how they did this multi-texture layered rendering. Oh, brilliant, but troublesome.
Even going back to some previous idea or some previous thing that we implemented, it's hard even for me to go back and what were we thinking? I don't know why we did it that way, but it made sense at the time. And then we moved on,
So Naughty Dog just had a way of going in and figuring out the last possible ounce of power you could get out of these systems. And that was just what we did. So how else would you do it? How else would you torture programmers?
Oh, you can find a lot of ways.
We tried. I'm sure you're still finding them.
I'm not surprised. It was kind of maybe one of the toughest things that they had to do at Mass Media. But yeah, we just they did it.
We could have gone the route of doing a lot more rewriting than we did, but we didn't want to do that because we wanted to keep the essence of the game. We wanted to make sure it was the game. I'd say 100% we are faithful to the original. And like restoring old film, the people that do that, they're driven. They have a cause, and they're trying to make the best job possible because it's a labor of love. And so when you see classics like this, you absolutely want to bring it into the modern era. You want new people to see it, and you've got to take care.
Absolutely. It's like, remixing the Beatles album or something. I mean, it's cool. It's just totally awesome because we all loved this game. I loved it when it came out.
I mean, you remember the game, it always looked great, and it was always super colorful and cool. You play the PlayStation for a while and go back to it, it's like, wow, that's a little different than I remembered it. So it's funny how your memories work on there. I think to some certain extent you kind of remaster your memories. And so then when you play the PS3, hopefully it matches pretty good.
The nostalgia of it and the people that played it 10 years ago are going to be the people that are going to buy this and just like, wow, this is cool. But there is a whole nother generation, or at this point I feel like I'm so old, it's maybe a few generations back that are going to be looking at this stuff for the first time and thinking, well, this is the kind of game that people don't hardly make anymore. I mean, these days it's big movie kind of adventure titles or big battle games or whatever, and this was a time when it really was all about platform games and that kind of gameplay, puzzle solving, that was very simplistic but compelling.
And that actually means a lot to me, that people still want to play this game, So that's pretty refreshing to see that, right on, the game we made 10 years ago is still being played right now. So that's actually really, really cool.
We work so hard on these games, and at the time that they come out, I mean, they're state of the art. I mean, they're just, people are just clamoring that day one, this is it. This is the state of the industry right here. But then they have a tendency to fade. You have people's memories and they talk about it, but they don't really get a chance to really go back and play them.
And that's something that is difficult with video games, because it's often tied to a hardware. That once that hardware is obsolete, then that game dies with it. And so to be able to kind of keep that going forever is definitely something that I wish we could just keep doing, and I think we'll always go back to those classic games. There's always going to be a time in our life, and there was a time in our gaming life, I guess, that we will never forget, and there's a period of time that just has a certain nostalgia to it. That we will always kind of go back to. So.
Oh, Jesus, I suck. I suck.
It's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to sitting down, and I get permission every once in a while to just do some game time at home. And this, I'm sure I'll get some permission to dive right in. I want to play these again from start to finish, which is kind of ridiculous, but that's what I'm going to do.
The only thing that'll be difficult, I think, for some people is, for all the cleaning up that they do and the graphics and all that sort of stuff, all the stuff that drove us crazy when we released the game is still going to be there. Like all the stuff that we didn't get to do, all the animations that we kind of had to skimp on because we were rushing to get things done. I mean, all that stuff's still going to be there. So, like they say, projects are never finished. They're simply abandoned because you got to ship the damn thing, right? So there'll be a few things that you're like, oh man, but and the bottom line is it's going to be cool to be able to experience that stuff again.
There's a pain in creation in the game industry, and there's a lot of late nights, a lot of frustration. Things get to yells, things get to anger. There's a lot of pain in the creation of these games, and to turn around and play it for fun right after that is impossible because the pain still rises. You still get frustrated. Oh, I lost that battle. Oh, we never fixed this thing. Oh, it still has this problem. Oh, how did we leave that in? You don't see it as a gamer sees it. You see it as a game maker sees it.
We create the games that we want to play, but they end up being for somebody else.
It's just making games is just a lot of personal investment. It's and it's kind of what we're also asking people to do here. It's you're gonna spend a lot of time at the office. You're gonna just give it a lot of yourself just to do it. And singing now, it's still like, they are great games. You're like, it was worth it. It was totally worth it.
Takes a while.
Yeah, and to actually, although I was having fun playing Jak, and so I do want to sit down and play, because it's been 10 years now, so that's like about the right kind of distance you need to look at it like fairly objectively, where you've half forgotten the stuff.
So I can now play the game as the audience that speaks to me on Twitter or whatever, reaches out to me, says how fantastic the game is. I can play it and see it as they saw it. I receive at least an email or message or two a day asking for updates to Jak or a Jak 4, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but there's no reason to send it to me because I no longer have any control over it. And people know that. It's not like they think I still work at Naughty Dog. So the demand for this is big. And I tell everybody that the day I left Naughty Dog was the day that I couldn't defeat anyone in GoldenEye. Well, you know, there was a road, and it branched. And one branch was continue to work at Naughty Dog and continue to do something that I love doing and still look back on very fondly. And the other branch was to go do things that weren't coming into the office every day, 6 or 7 days a week, working extremely long hours and trying to make myself a more full person by traveling, doing other businesses, finding out about other companies, other industries, and I chose that branch.
And we were lucky to have like guys we work with like them who were so talented, who actually were capable of like really doing it, doing their own thing and adding their own style to it. It's actually, you know, they're very unique.
There was no stumble at Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog continued right along into Game of the Years. So it's easy to look back and say, I shouldn't have made this decision or I should have made this decision, but I wouldn't give up the life, you know, that I've led since. But it's when you come back on a day like this and the memories come rushing back and you do realize that you miss that familial challenge.
For every age, there is a time of trial. The rocks faced such a fire before they were the strength beneath our feet. As a sage of considerable years, I have known only one such great ordeal. Yet the hero it created was a champion for all time.
We set out to do a lot more than just create another game that has more levels and different enemies. We wanted to change the player's experience, give them something that they hadn't had before, while still retaining the feel of Jak and Daxter.
That's right. Don't mess with the sugar.
We wanted to get away a bit from the pastoral, beautiful settings of the original and throw the player into a new place where we really kick up the intensity and throw in a lot of action and a sort of palpable sense of menace.
We've been waiting for you.
In Jak 2, we were able to build upon what we had created before and go in all new kinds of directions and create things that would not have been possible with the original engine because we had such a great starting point to work with.
We wanted to really up the ante in a number of different realms. First of all, we wanted to put a lot more things on screen, enemies that were attacking you, things moving around, so the player had the real feeling of being in an inhabited world instead of just a pretty world, and that adds a lot more options in terms of gameplay.
Let me handle this, Jak. Watch my finesse and style.
So this story is a much more complex story than the original Jak and Daxter. We're exploring a large number of more adult themes. There's bigger, greater evils around you, and there's betrayal and love. This is not just a kid's story. This is a story with a much broader reach.
Jak has really done a lot of growing up this game. The plot actually starts out with him spending some time in jail, and he becomes hardened. Some experiments have been performed on him while he was doing his time.
You should at least be dead with all the dark eco I pumped into you.
When he emerges, he's definitely changed, and Daxter takes notice of that right away.
Say something! Just this once! I'm gonna kill Praxis! Right now, we gotta get you out of here.
Now we really have the opportunity to really develop his persona and his character. There's a very volatile element to this universe, which is the dark eco. And now we start to see how that's affecting Jak.
Easy now. Easy, buddy. It's your old pal Daxter, remember?
Here we have the evolution of what became the final Jak. Here we start seeing the Jak that we're more used to. His hair got a bit more weighted down. We still want to keep it long. Actually, we tried the buzz cut here. We tried various other looks, the locks on the side, the facial hair still is kind of sticking around. We kind of like this kind of look as well with the rebel look and the old headgear and a bit added on. So we can see that Jak's been through some combat. He's beefed up and he's ready to go.
It took us a long time to find the right voice for Jak. But Mike Irwin, I mean, if there is a person in the real world that is Jak, it's Mike Irwin.
I want the Baron to know that it's me who's hurting him.
Max Casella has returned to reprise the role as Daxter, and he is just a goldmine for us.
Blow it out your ear! You were bottle-fed, weren't you?
He's a bit grown up now because he's now in the big city, and there's a lot of big city vices for him to experiment with.
Wait, I've seen you before.
Shh! I'm Tess. Play along, and I may be able to get my hands on a few secrets.
Ooh, I love undercover work, baby.
The abusive Daxter is the fun of this game.
Once again, being your friend sucks.
Daxter is strange enough, but Pecker and Onan, these characters are crazy. They're out of this world.
I am Pecker. Yes, I know. My mother, she was very vindictive.
We have characters who are multidimensional in this game. All of them have character arcs. They all have goals and they have things that they want, and it all ties together back into the main story.
The reason the animation looks more sophisticated this time around is because there's been some tweaks to the engine. We're also just being a lot more clever about the way we allocate memory and design our levels.
I'm just getting started.
Our characters now have upwards of 10,000, 12,000 polys in them, whereas in the first game, the original Jak and Daxter, the characters would have maybe 2 or 3. The bottom line is what we are doing now in real time on the PlayStation 2 took an entire room full of computers, hours to do, as little as 5 years ago.
We have a much greater amount of detail in the new game. We have single locations on our game that have larger polygon counts, equal polygon counts to some of the entire levels in the original game.
Did you get a little nip and tuck while we were gone?
We've got full-on facial animation with multiple blend-shaped targets. We have dynamic animation of things collapsing and blowing up. We have particle systems animating dust and explosions. And all this stuff is being done in real time by our code on the PlayStation 2.
Step aside, Jak. Let the game player do his stuff.
It's always been the push at Naughty Dog to try to create the next big experience, create the next big thing. And we're very, very fortunate that we have amassed a talented group of people that can achieve that.
One really important addition to the Naughty Dog design team is Yasuhara. Yasuhara comes to us from Sega. He's been working on titles that changed the industry radically. He's not only incredibly fast, incredibly detailed, and really talented, but he has a new idea set, and he brings with him a really fresh way of looking at games.
もうJak and Daxter 1の本当にファンでしたね。で、お誘いがあった時には本当に嬉しかったですね。これでやっと理想のチームと仕事ができるんだっていう、本当に楽しみでしたね。
The locations in Jak 2 are just f***ing huge. I mean, it's out of control. There's one location that is 25 times larger than our largest location in the original Jak and Daxter. So the amount of gameplay and immersion that you're going to get inside of these environments is just going to blow your mind.
There's so much more of everything. There's more enemies, there's more in-game characters to interact with. Everything is just more of Jak has tons more moves, he has a hoverboard, he has weapons. And then there's other stuff that you'll get to see when you play the game.
What's great about working with Naughty Dog is these guys are not happy just to have their game look as good as their previous game. They want to set a new standard for animation or artwork or programming on every single game that they do.
We're always trying to push the envelope on both a technical and artistic scale.
We have far better creature intelligence. We have far better cinematic sequences. We have far bigger and far better worlds to explore, locations to go to, a humongous city.
Jak 2 is really a landmark title for Naughty Dog. We're really trying to create a cinematic feel that will set the new standard that other games will try to emulate.
I think the PlayStation 2 and Jak and Daxter are really pushing entertainment into a new direction.
Start your engines because the folks at Naughty Dog have a new game. It emerged from their action platform success with the Jak and Daxter precursor trilogy.
Upon completing Jak 3, we realized that we had a lot of fun with the vehicles in that game, and we decided that we really wanted to focus our attention, a full game's worth of attention, on just vehicles alone. It really allows you to play with Jak and Daxter in a brand new way.
We wanted to make something that was appropriate for the way that our fans have matured, that would offer them something new, but that would also offer them some familiar characters in new situations.
Thus was born Jak X, combat racing.
Jak X combat racing can be summed up with the simple phrase of leather, napalm, and gasoline.
It's not really a story about the trilogy. It's not about the Jak universe per se. It's its own separate thing. And so we started developing a story just around the idea of racing itself.
At Naughty Dog, we love story and we love telling it, and we also love gameplay, of course. That's our bread and butter. So we've gone to great lengths to make sure that the story and the game fit together.
I finally get to meet the great racer, Jak.
And?
And what?
Our intrepid heroes are drawn into a web of deceit and destruction that will have you on the edge of your car seat.
The storyline of the game centers around Jak and Daxter attending the reading of the will of Crew, their old nemesis from Jak 2.
Hello, nearly friends, mostly enemies.
And then they discover that from beyond the grave he has poisoned them, and that he will only give them the antidote if they compete in this racing competition on his behalf.
My advice is trust no one. Win the race and save yourselves.
It's all the action excitement you want, but at the same time you have sort of this overlaying and underlying motivation, this emotional connection to different characters, and finding out why you're doing what you're doing and what's going to happen in the end.
As you race and fight, you'll have your pick from a fleet of vehicles that you can customize.
We have over 12 vehicles that you'll be able to play throughout the course of the game, and we also have some secret vehicles available for unlocking.
For each and every one of these cars, we designed somewhere between like 3 and 5 whole different sets of body parts for them. And they're all interchangeable. Put on some special spoilers, switch out the wheels, and before you know it, you have a car which is absolutely unique to you.
Your whirlwind adventure will take you on a journey to vast, faraway worlds.
You're talking about big terrain, big jumps, huge open vistas, and things that you've just never seen before in a racing game.
We have 31 different venues and they all connect together, so we have a lot of different combinations for all the tracks.
We're always loading the next level of the game just ahead of the player, and this allows us to have an incredible variety of graphics.
It's a big wide world of choice and opportunity. Just pick a mode and off you go.
The adventure mode is, of course, where we tell most of the story. And then as you play through the events of the adventure mode, we drop extra little nuggets of story on the player as the events unfold.
Jak X Combat Racing has so many different types of racing. You have circuit racing, you have deathmatch, which deathmatch is basically you get out there and you're going head to head with everybody else. You've got the actual death races, which you're on the same courses that you've been playing for clock and for speed. Now you're going out there trying to kill as many vehicles as you can and as quickly as you can. There are artifact races where you're trying to collect as many things as you possibly can. Again, you can do that with team or with not team. Lots of different arenas, lots of different tracks. There's just a lot of different modes.
And we've put together a dozen different events across 31 different venues. So the combinatorial matrix of event and venue types is huge. You can play this game for years.
In this realm of mayhem, it pays to ensure your health. You better load up on weapons and check your 6.
A wise man once said, "Be watchful of those in front of you, but beware of those behind."
What wise man said that?
I did!
The weapon system is based around 2 different weapon slots. You've got one on either side of the screen. One's for forward-facing weapons, and the other one is for rear weapons, and also for special weapons.
We have a lot of different weapons. If you use them well, you can upgrade them, so they're getting better and better.
And there's a lot of sort of rock, paper, scissors, countermeasures, and attacks and strategies while you're on the track.
Combat racing is so popular it can't be contained. It's breaking out in a big way around the online world.
We offer the player the ability to go online with 6 other people, so you can actually battle it out in every single mode online. Anything that's available in single player, you can play online as well.
Jak X Combat Racing was designed with online in mind from day one. You have everything you could ever possibly want with an online element, with the lobbies and with clans and all the things you've come to expect. But in addition to that, you have customization of every race. You can do single player, full screen. You can do split screen online with multiple players. It gives you, the player, lots of choices to customize for themselves.
And the best part of this experience is having fun.
What I love about Jak X the most is just how much fun I have playing it. I can't put the controller down. I just have to get in there and have another race, have another rematch, and just talk a little more smack.
It's core gameplay. It's seat of the pants, white knuckles, do or die gameplay, and everybody seems to really respond to it.
It's great. I mean, we also playing a lot, maybe too much sometimes. It's a blast.
It's going to blow players away in terms of the variety of the play and the new directions that we're taking Jak and Dax in their quest to win the prize, save the day.
So keep on that gas, keep on that turbo, and go around the corners and just go white knuckle. And it's Mach 3 with your hair on fire. That's really what it's all about.
Let's race.
Jak and Daxter really kind of came out of a culmination of a series of brainstormings with a number of people, trying to think about how we were going to make an action hero who was a little more accessible and in a world that was much bigger than you'd seen before.
We wanted to focus on the speed, action, and insane intensity that you get from an arcade racer. We wanted to include the customization and personalization you get with a racing sim. We wanted to have the over-the-top carnage and wreckage that you get from a vehicular combat game, and then we wanted to tie that all up in the Jak and Daxter universe. That's Jak X.
We've got an amazing team of animators who come from all over, both from the video games industry and from the feature film industry. They just do a mind-blowing job in bringing the characters to life.
We hired a student right out of Pasadena Art Center for vehicle design. He was actually major in transport design. He had a choice of going to Detroit and designing real vehicles or coming to Naughty Dog and actually working on Jak X Combat Racing. Fortunately for us, he chose Naughty Dog and has just kicked out dozens of incredible vehicle designs.
What makes Jak X so great is the variations of the tracks and the terrain. We have such incredibly interesting designs. Yasuhara did a lot of the track designs.
So some of the locations in the game will be familiar to players of the other Jak games, but the other whole half of the game is in all new locations.
Welcome, race fans, to another turbocharged season of high-stakes, high-speed racing. As the best racers of the world swap paint in their quest to claim the Crash City Grand Championship Trophy.
For Jak X, we brought everybody back. Everybody that's ever been in the universe that that seems to be characters that people wanted to see again. Susan Eisenberg is back as Ashlyn.
What the hell did you do to us?
And of course, Mark Irwin came back as Jak.
We can do this. We can race. And we can beat Crew at his own game.
And Max Casella, who's the voice of Daxter.
Jak, next time you invite me to one of your little parties, don't!
He's my secret weapon, really. There's an old adage that says, that if you have a scene that's sagging, have somebody run in with a gun. Well, in my case, whenever a scene's really bad, have Daxter say something, because he always adds so much life to the scene.
To me, as a game designer, audio is a really incredibly important thing. This game, we've worked with a couple of really awesome artists to create the soundtrack for the game.
We have Queens of the Stone Age for the intro. It's really an amazing intro.
Most of the game's soundtrack has been made by Mr. Billy Howardell. His fans, of course, will know him from his work with A Perfect Circle. And he's crafted a whole variety of amazing tracks for us.
We allow 6 players to race against each other at the same time. You can wear a headset so that you can have an open channel and talk to all those people out there. We have a lobby which is fully featured with clans and buddies. So, we're really trying to make it a very rich online experience.
But in addition to that, you have customization of every race. So everything from the wind parameters to the weapons used in the race, the number of track laps, the number of the time limits, the amount of collectibles. These things are all adjustable online with you and your friends.
We've gone to great pains to give online players all the tools that we know that they need and love to be able to make their online community experience really great. We've created buddy lists so that you can browse lists of players that you've played against recently and add them to a list of friends. And then when you come online, you can very quickly and easily see which of your buddies are online. We also have clans, which of course a bit like clubs or racing teams that the players can form and invite each other to join.
And you've got so many choices, not only in weapons, but in track types and in different types of opponents that you're playing.
But this game is actually more about the fast action, intense speed that you would imagine from an arcade race or a racing sim.
We've been really pleased with the reception we've got because people have been saying that while they've seen this style of play in one game before, that style of play in another game, they've never really seen it all together in one game like this.
When the going gets tough, Jak will get us out of it.
We're just gonna have to win the whole thing.